Patrick Mahomes is cooking out at training camp. There's a lot of competition, and we are live today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Chiefs Kingdom, it is another day at training camp, and it's getting hot out there on the field at least. A lot to go over. Welcome. We're brought to you today by all of our favorites. You can get it at FanDuel. They're giving you a deal every day for everyone all the time, either a daily boost or bonus. You can get it at FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And I'm excited about that. I want to get started because I'm here to compete. And a lot of the guys on this roster are as well. It's getting aggravated out there. The lineup on the offensive line continues to shake up a little bit, as well as a couple of other spots. And Patrick Mahomes seems to be hitting his stride a little bit earlier in camp than we thought. This is Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL33.com and RGR Football. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out another Locked On show for your next one, because we are all free and available 5 days a week here on YouTube, where you can like and sub, on Spotify, on Apple Music, on anywhere you can get a free audio podcast. You can get us 5 days a week. Plus, like this one, which is a bonus live stream. Thank you guys for joining us. You everydayers, we know you're here. We appreciate you and everyone else. So if you want that much more, you can get us on the text line at 816-357-8781. We're going to start here because it's an onslaught. It's in the air, and Mahomes is getting it done to more people than I expected. What did you see today, and what stood out?
Well, really quick, get your questions in. We will be having a little bit of time at the end. So if you have questions, hit us up in the comments and let us know. I do already have some questions from the subtext line, so thank you very much for everybody that's joined that. Mahomes just keeps hitting people. I don't know how else to say it. Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Justin Ross, everybody seemed to really get touchdowns today. It is just a matter of he is spreading the ball around, and there's even a play out there, and I think I retweeted this one, where he is running to his left, out of bounds in full team, and I'm pretty sure that Suamataia got beat by Chris Jones on that specific play, and he flips the ball to McCole Hardman, much like he did the Jet McKinnon flip that he scored a touchdown on in Denver. He's on a different level, and he is continuing to get better and better, and it's exciting to see as a Chiefs fan, and looking forward to what the season is going to bring.
Yeah, I mean, for him to be there, it raises everybody else's level right now, as they haven't even played a preseason game. The Hall of Fame game just last night. Old friend Ryan Poles got his team off to a decent start, and so everybody's going to measure up to what the Chiefs are doing in camp until they're on the field as well. I love the concept of having those last-second flips, because it's old school, like front yard tag kind of games where you're just putting it where they ain't. You know, you got one guy pressuring and there's two dudes there. Use it. And if McCole can take advantage of that, I think he's got the acceleration to take that. Although there's another play today where McCole accelerated, and Trent McDuffie was able to recapture that edge, make an interception today. So McColl's still got to be able to hit it all full speed when it's time to go. And that's what I'm looking for. He's not the only one, though. Justin Ross getting a touchdown today, had another nice day yesterday. For those that are, the Ross stands in here, he's doing the things that he needs to do. Is enough to make the roster. I don't know that he's cracking that code yet, but where do you stand on him today?
Here's the thing with Ross, and this is what stood out to me when I was actually watching at camp, is there were a couple of actually different plays where he broke the huddle with Carson Wentz, and they had to re-huddle because he didn't line up where he was supposed to be. You want to know why he's maybe not breaking the roster? That's why. If you line up wrong in practice, you're not going to make the roster, because they're not going to put you out there in certain situations. That's the way that works. So I think he's still on the outside looking in. I'm not saying he doesn't have the talent, but you have to know the offense. You have to know where you're supposed to be lining up, and you have to be in the right place at the right time. If this offense is going to be anything like what I expect it to be this year, does he have the ability to contribute? Yes. Can he contribute? Can they count on him to contribute and be where he is supposed to be all the time? That hasn't been the case from what I saw in camp. So that is, to me, why I think it's on the outside looking in for him right now.
I mean, I got to say, my mind immediately goes to Justin Ross is now a trade candidate. Somebody needs a guy that can do what he does. The Chiefs are still, despite his good showing in camp, Had one last year too. Still not going to throw the jump balls in enough volume to make that worth it. But there are teams out there that will. Bryce Young could use some help in Carolina. You want to go back to Carolina? A comfortable spot for Justin Ross? Like, I think that could be a fit. Like, there are guys stepping out enough in their performance in training camp to get other eyes in the league on them. And I think that's a plus for the team.
Well, and then you look at another situation. I mean, you have Jared Wiley, who is going to be, I think, a jump ball candidate. So you already have other players that can fit that role in my mind. So I do think that that's, maybe that's a way that they look. They try to trade him off. Do I think, like I said, he provides value. He can do certain things for the team, and he's a big body wide receiver. But if you can't be consistently where you're supposed to be, that's a problem. And we'll see if it continues. Watch for that during the preseason games. If it ends up that you can see that he's not where he's supposed to be, or he's having to move right before the snap, that says something. You look at the other guys on the roster. There's a ton of people that are competing for roster spots in this on this team, and it is going to be very hard to make it a wide receiver. Kadarius Toney still didn't practice today with the ankle injury. Maybe he's not going to be playing next week, but I still figure he's going to be on the roster, even though maybe he shouldn't be. But his contract is guaranteed, so it's really hard for me to see them moving on from him.
It really just comes down to at that point, because you got to spend the money either way. Can he contribute or can he not? That's what it is going to be in the determination. But availability will play a big role in that. Also thought I saw a clip from Irv Smith, who's put 3 days together where he's making some standout plays, making his name on there that, hey, don't forget about me. You need 4 tight ends. And I do believe that, because I want to see some triple tight end formations. So right now I'm leaning towards Irv still making it.
Man, it's going to be tough. I don't know. With the offensive line, which we're going to talk about here. Sorry, I can't talk here in just a moment. I don't know, between offensive line, defensive line, and the different special teams rules that we saw last night in the Hall of Fame game with the new kickoff rules. Is it going to change the way that they have to put people on the roster? Irv Smith has a chance. Maybe they keep 4 tight ends. If they do, then he's going to be the 4th, I think, in this with the way things are playing out right now. But then you have to go shorter at some other position, and I don't know what position they're going to be going shorter at.
Yeah, it could be that situation. So what is going on the offensive line? That's what we got to get to next. We're going to be right back with that after this. Passion, drive, patience. It brings the trophy home, just like the Chiefs have. And it can also affect your main vehicle, your ride or die. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain that vehicle, give it its peak performance, as well as over-the-top superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything to make it speedy, powerful, and stylish, all at eBay Motors, because they have you covered. Over 122 million parts for your or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, because eBay has a guaranteed fit. Your part will fit your ride every single time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're not burning cash. You're burning rubber. At least you're trying to. With all the parts that you need and the pieces that you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Guaranteed fit is available for U.S. customers only. The newest 24/7 information for you is on Locked On NFL Today. You can get it here on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TV. Go like and sub. You're going to see us multiple times a day, as well as the rest of the NFL world here on the Locked On Podcast Network. A lot of folks are really interested in how you protect Mahomes. He is so elite. We've been talking about it for years. What's the process now? A little bit of solidification in my mind, even though Andy Reid went out of his way to say that the left tackle job is not sorted out yet.
You caught on to that.
I think that's very telling, because I think it's sorted out. I got to tell you, I think it's over. What did you take away from today's, where Kingsley Suamataia was with the ones? Wanya Morris got backup reps with the 2s at left guard. I think I might have said that at some point.
Well, he also got left guard 1 run as well. Morris did before he went out with injury. He left with a shoulder injury during camp. So that's something to watch there as well. And yeah, I'm glad you caught that. I was curious to see what Reid would say, and it makes sense why he says it, but I agree with you. I think the competition is done. There has been no indication, at least from what we've seen at camp, that they think that Suamataia isn't going to be the starting left tackle. I mean, it would be very surprising to me at this point if that ends up being the case, because you look at all the snaps that Suamataia has gotten. They haven't given very many to Wanya Morris. Yeah, they've shifted him in from time to time, but ever since the pads have come on, Suamataia has been the guy. And yeah, he got beat, like I said in the first segment, by Chris Jones earlier. It happens. Chris Jones is one of the best players in the league. So
you have to take your lumps. That rep made him better. That's the bottom line. Losing to Chris Jones today made him better. And I don't think there's much more to be gained. Wanya's seen this, been through this. I don't think the leap is as applicable to a second-year player as it is to a rookie. Rookie's getting his eyes opened every single day. That is part of this process. But that said, I love the concept of Wanya at left guard if Joe can't go or is delayed in his onset in the season. And quite frankly, let's be real, between the injury and the contract and the age, there is a possibility that Joe Thuney this is his swan song in Kansas City. We just don't know. And if you need to replace him, the guy who gets snaps there now is going to be the odds-on favorite at that point. And I like that concept going forward. The question is, do you get a disgruntled player like Darian Kennard was always pissed off about being made a guard? Sorry, Darian, that's where you belong. That's your best position. That may be the case here with Wanya, but not in such extreme, in my opinion. I think in the future, Wanya could be a guy that plays 4 positions for this offensive line wherever he's needed. Do you disagree?
No, I think that he's possibly going to be able to step in and do that. And you're absolutely right. I think the big thing with him is he has to be willing to do that. And that is a huge thing with Kennard. Kennard always felt like he was an offensive tackle. Kansas City didn't see him there. They moved him inside, and it never seemed to work out for him. And so at this point, I just think that Wanya is going to have to live with what Kansas City is going to do. If they're going to start Suamataia, which it looks like they're going to do, Morris is going to have to be happy being the 6th offensive lineman off the field. And he's got 2 more years in Kansas. He's got 3 more years in Kansas City, including this one. So he's not going to be going anywhere. They're not going to be trading him. They're not going to be releasing him. So he needs to fill in and do the best he can to get on the field, because that's how he's going to end up making his money. I mean, being pissed off and not because you didn't win the offensive tackle position isn't going to get you paid down the line. So anything he can do for Kansas City, and I think you're absolutely right, Joe Thuney, this could be his last year in Kansas City. We'll see. He has a huge cap number, and they could save a lot next year if they release him. I'm not saying that they should, but it's possible. I mean, that's a situation. Although you also have a situation where Trey Smith is probably gone after this year, because it's a huge cap number to try to sign him to a long-term deal. But really quick, one of the things that really stood out to me, and I tweeted this out, second offensive line, and I know we already talked about Morris, but left tackle Ethan Driscoll, Wanya Morris at left guard, center Mike Caliendo, right guard Hunter Norzad, and right tackle Lucas Niang. Driscoll is huge. If they're giving him LT2 snaps, it means that they see something, and maybe there's going to be something there. So that becomes a question of whether or not he can solidify his ability to play both sides, because I do think that that's what's going to maybe cause him to have a chance to make this roster versus a guy like Lucas Niang. Can he show that he can play left tackle and be successful enough at it to where you could feel like you need to keep him and develop him?
I completely agree. And it's been something they've tried Chu Godric out there before. He's had some snaps this camp, but the later we go on, the guy who gets the more 1s and 2s reps are more likely to make the roster. I'm pulling for Driscoll because I like the idea of him. He's a good athlete. He's got a long way to go. So this may be another experiment. They're going to keep doing that for a while. But if that proves out, he can definitely play right. And if they're going to give him this much run at left, he's a candidate now for a true swing tackle position. Yeah,
and I can't remember. I was trying to look and see and find on Twitter or X, if Chu was out there today, because I think he had some injury. He had an injury a couple days ago, so I don't know whether or not he was.
Tilly, I like your comment. Sorry.
You're just throwing me off. No, Chu actually was back today. So really quick, since we're talking about it, or since I brought it up, Nazeeh Johnson was out, Justin Watson out, Kadarius Toney out, Nick Bolton out, Deion Bush and Kelvin Joseph. And then obviously you still have the same guys that have been out in, Minihue and Naughty and Justin Reed. Although it seems like Justin Reed tweeted out soon with the clock, so maybe he's soon going to be returning. So we'll see on that one. And like I said, Wanya Morris left with a shoulder injury during practice. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot to talk about when you look at this roster and who's going to make it. I'm curious, since knowing that Chu is actually out there, does that mean that Driscoll is moving past him? And the other side, and I actually got this question asked, or we got this question asked on our YouTube show. Chu is actually the guy that is in the international program or international pathway program, which means he doesn't count against the roster for the 90-man right now. And he also doesn't count against he could be a 17th practice squad guy because he is part of the international pathway program. So watch that. It's possible that he would stick on the roster because of that and be the 17th guy on the practice squad in that way.
Yeah, it could be as well. I got the same question about LRZ the other day, and I did look it up. And the language in the CBA is that there is an exemption for an international pathways player. So one.
Right.
The other would have to be on the practice squad.
I think they designated Chu as their guy this year. So I don't think LRZ is even eligible to be that guy. So I think you have to designate it early on. I remember reading that. So if Chu's going to be on the roster, I don't know that it's really going to be the 53-man. I think he has a chance to stick it on the practice squad, which is fine. I think that, if you have a chance to develop him further, I think that that's just a win for this team down the road.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, more good for the team down the road starts by competing in camp. There's a lot of that going on right now. We're going to talk about that and take your questions on the backside of this. You love sports just like I do, and you love them so much you never want them to stop. But the playoffs have come and go. It's baseball season, and now it's training camp. There's always something to get into the action, and wherever you want to go, you can do it with one app on FanDuel and place any bets anytime you're in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is giving away to all customers either a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com. You can even take a look at the Chiefs right now. They are plus 600 for the next Super Bowl, the three-peat Super Bowl. You can go to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer right now. There's still time left in this summer. FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball and the NFL. Make sure you like and sub here on YouTube and get on all the subscription services because we are free and available 6 days a week. Plus, as you see us here for this bonus episode live, thanks to everybody that's in the chat. We're going to get to your questions in just a second. But the example of competition has to echo through the team. What stands out to you in that realm today?
I will say this. When you go back and look at Isaiah Pacheco coming into the NFL, one of the things he struggled with and one of the reasons why it was curious whether or not he would be able to be the third down back or be a guy that they use much in the passing game was because he struggled at times with taking on guys coming after the quarterback and in pass protection. He is accelerated. I mean, he is doing fantastic at that today. And he actually called out Drew Tranquill. He had a rep against Drew Tranquill and he won it. And then he came back up again and he called out Drew Tranquill and he won it again. And he took off his helmet and celebrated. And I'm not upset that Tranquill lost, but it's more of, and this is something else that was mentioned on X, is that, those two guys are trash talking each other. And you absolutely love to see that because those two guys are trying to get each other better. They're trying to get themselves better, but they're going to just better each other as well in those types of competitions. And Pacheco wanting to do that is huge because that's what gets him on the field on third downs. That's what gets him on the field in passing situations is he has the ability to pick up blockers. If you can't do that, you can't play that role. And I'm not saying he hasn't been able to do it in the past couple of years, but it was something he struggled with as a rookie and he has worked his butt off to get better at. And he's doing pretty well at it right now.
Yeah. And that's a plus to see. And when we say trash talking, we don't mean like, calling your mom out or something like that. This is pushing each other. This is challenging each other in a aggressive way, but it works. It's something that should happen.
Football players do on the field in pads,
right? I mean, come on. We know the game's gotten a little more timid over the years, but let's try to keep some of it intact, can we?
Yeah.
That said, I'm glad to see it, and I think that lifts the entire team on both sides, starting at those two position groups that are going at each other. And I do want to jump the gun real quick just because Michael had a question regarding the running backs. As we understand now, Michael, the shuffling is still settling down, but Prince is getting a lot of runs as the second tailback, obviously with Clyde missing some practice this week and then moving in. Steele's gotten a few. As I understand, Ingram and Bailey are getting some as well. I don't know if you have other thoughts on that, buddy.
Right now, if I was to guess, I would say that Prince is RB2. When I was there at camp, he was consistently getting run with the ones. Clyde wasn't getting run with the ones. And when he was there, when he was practicing, and maybe he had something going on and that's what they were doing, but he seemed to be the last guy going through drills as well. So I really do think that Prince is, it sure seems like he's overtaking Clyde at this point. And the reality is Clyde's never really fit into what the Chiefs' plans have been. It doesn't really seem like they've ever used him in the passing game like we would expect, and his running hasn't been what we would hoped it could have been after his injury. So is it surprising to me? No, I think that Prince is showing what he showed last year. The question is, can he continue it? Because he fell off a cliff. I don't remember if it was after preseason game 1 or preseason game 2, but I thought he was a lock for the roster last year, and then he disappeared. So we'll see if he can continue it. If he does, then that's a big sign that he could be RB2, and maybe they're still going to give Clyde time if something happens to Pacheco, but I still think that right now Prince is that guy.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there too, but that's why this process is what it is. You got to make it all the way through it. Every preseason game steps up the level of competition a little bit, and you just got to survive.
Before you go to the next one, you already switched.
Sorry.
Okay, I have another one right after this one. I have two actually to get to right after this one. What kind of production? I think, I don't know, 3 or 4 touchdowns, maybe 300 yards.
I give it a little edge of that because I want him to get there. I think it'll be a little slow to start though.
Yeah.
And for correction, for Mo was asking before, don't see him as a jump ball candidate. That's not what Wiley's here for. I don't know why you thought any of us said that, because we didn't, because we actually know what he's going to do. So anyway.
No, I didn't say he was a jump ball candidate. I said he can do jump balls. He's able to do that. And if that's what you're wanting Ross on the roster for, I don't understand why that doesn't make sense to me. You have a guy that can go do that, and he needs more time, and you should be using Wiley in the red zone. He is a huge man that I think will take advantage of it. So we'll see. And maybe I'm a little high on Wiley. Maybe he's not going to get the 3 to 4 touchdowns. I just think they're going to use him a lot in the red zone because he looks like he's going to be that type of player. And 300 yards, maybe a little much. It's really going to depend on what they do with Noah Gray and how much they go to 3 tight end sets. But I do think Wiley's going to be on the field with Kelsey some as well by just those two. So,
yeah, he's a more traditional tight end set, or at least traditional in the way the Chiefs use him, as partially Y and partially split out. Whereas Noah's a little bit more of a niche player.
Well, and I would also argue that I think maybe you'll see more of Wiley and Noah on the field by themselves without Kelsey. And that's exactly what you would want, because you look at Travis Kelsey and taking some snaps away from him. Yeah, we'd love him to be able to play 100%, but that's not smart at his age and with injuries and whatnot. So there's a possibility maybe Travis's snaps go down a little bit, and you see Wiley get more run because he has the ability to do some of that stuff. Next question, I'm going to pull a couple from the subtext line. How concerned should we be with the O-line backups after losing Allegretti? Do we have enough quality depth?
It's an interesting question. I think there's enough quality. It's just immature. Because from my point of view, Calino's not a seasoned player by any means, but he's there.
True.
Looks like he has the experience edge, but like Norzat, Hansen, Wanye, if this change to guard is looking more significant for Wanye, I see him being the swing interior guy right off the bat, the 6th offensive lineman right off the bat. So I would not say that the talent is low. I would say the experience level is low.
Yeah, and the question is who's going to be the backup center, and how many are they going to keep? I mean, we've talked about it, and it's really going to be curious because if they start using and they move Wanye to guard, that gives them the ability to maybe keep 4 tackles and not near as many people on the interior, which would allow them to possibly keep a guy like Irv Smith, like you talked about earlier. Because right now, if you're having to keep 4 tackles and one is one of your 4 tackles, and then you have to keep, I don't know, what, 5 interior offensive linemen, a backup for a guard and a backup for a center. I mean, that eats it at your camp number or your roster number. So it's all a balancing act, and that's what really makes this tough. Really quick before we go on, from unpadded to padded practice, top 5 gainers, losers, or no changes.
Winners right now, Kingsley, Deneric. I would say Nico. I mean, it's not drastic, but he is getting a lot of attention from the coaching staff, and I think his stock is rising. Kelvin Joseph, clearly. And I think FAU, on a low-key FAU.
I can get behind all that. Going down, I think, and this is subjective, I suppose, but Wanya Morris, mainly because he hasn't been getting LT1 snaps. I mean, he was getting all of them when they showed up in camp before they put the pads on. So that would be number one for me. Going down, it's the guys that are moving back. I think it's difficult. Josh Williams, maybe with the Kelvin Joseph issue lately. I don't know that there's a ton that are really moving backwards. It's just they're moving through so many things on the roster right now. They're trying to figure out who they got and who's going to be where. I will tell you this right now. In a week, we are going to have a lot more information. And I don't mean that because of camp. I mean that because when we see the first game and we get an idea of where these players are going or lining up, when they're getting rotations in, and how they're used in special teams, that's going to tell a lot about how this is going to shake out.
Agreed. There's 2 questions here on the same topic from Michael, and then there was another one I thought. Jerome. From Jerome. You guys, good question. Yep. As I understand, the international player path designation is once at the beginning of training camp. You used to get 1 exemption there, and you get 1 exemption for the final roster. So I do believe you could switch it at that time, but I don't see that in the bylaws from what I looked at the other day.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure on that. I'd have to go look and do some looking. What I saw earlier is that you have to say who it is going into the season, or going into training camp. And if they have one, when the season starts, maybe that does change. Maybe it becomes a LRZ. We'll have to see.
That could very well be. And then the last one, again, from Michael. Thank you guys for the questions. You're doing great. Do you see redesigned Wentz plays? I have not yet, but you saw way more volume of offensive plays while you were there. Do you see anything that looked like, old Eagles plays?
Not that I saw. I will say, and Wentz continues to have a good camp. I think that this is really going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I go back to what I said just a second ago. When you go back and you look at preseason game number 1 and preseason game number 2, I think we're going to see a lot more production, I guess you would say, from QB2, because we didn't hardly see any last year. And I think that's going to be very encouraging for the Chiefs. And don't forget, this is something that we've seen just about every year. Kansas City, generally speaking, will go very vanilla on offense and defense, but they're also usually going to be focusing on one thing on one side of the ball. So if it's the running game week 1 or it's the passing game week 1, I mean, we're not going to know until the game happens what they're going to focus on, but that's generally how that works. And I almost, with the way Wentz has looked, maybe they will have him play in week 3 in the preseason, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
We'll see how it all shakes out. I think he's probably pretty competitive, as well as we were talking about earlier at the top of the 3rd segment here, but we'll have to see. Your observations are keen for us as well, you guys.
Here's a question for Michael again. If Rice is not suspended, does it take away from Wiley's 12 formation reps and others in wide open middle zones? I will say this. If Rice is not suspended, I do think it lowers maybe the ceiling for Wiley a little bit. I'm not going to say a ton, because I still think Kansas City is going to look at it as they have 2 tight ends that they can now run out there and feel like they're real tight ends. I mean, and that's not a shot at Gray. It's just he's not the same type of player. And you look at, and one of the things that stood out in today's camp was Wiley was doing really good in pass protection. That does matter when you start talking about some of these 2 tight end sets and what they can do, because just because Wiley's on the field doesn't mean he's going to go out for a pass. I mean, it could be a situation where he's having to run block, or it could be a situation where he's even having to pass block. That's possible. We've seen their tight ends have to do that from time to time. Kelsey's had to stay in and pass block from time to time with different routes, and that's exactly what you want because you don't want the defense to be able to know what you're doing.
Yeah, you got to keep it fresh, keep it steady, and keep it close to the chest. That all is helped by being able to have multiple guys do multiple things. So we're going to take the day off like the Chiefs are tomorrow on Saturday, and we'll be back with you Sunday night for the Monday show as we get ready for the next week. And a week from Saturday, the Chiefs are on the field in preseason game number 1. So thank you for your time. Leave your comments below. What would you like to see? If you have any player-specific requests, let us know it there, and we'll try to check those out as the Chiefs get back on the field in a couple of days. Thanks for being with us today. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you next time.